Hi guys. Hi everyone. I'm finally getting to my root video. I actually had the root video, the root chakra video done a few weeks ago. And when I went to post it, I got a no, wait. And I'm like, wait a minute, I spent all this time on it. I need to post it. And Spirit kept saying, wait. So now I know why, because what I'm going to tell you may resonate with you and may not resonate with you. It's also going to bring up some controversial talks, thoughts, if you will, of some things that happened in 2020. And I'm going to give you a different perspective as to why the events that happened in 2020 and, all the way to 2022 happened. And I think that's why Spirit didn't want me to post that video, was because I needed to connect the dots. And the minute I connected the dots, I was like, wow, okay, I'm ready now. And Spirit came through and said, yes, you are. So what I'm going to start with is how Spirit works with me is that I get different things will just show up on my phone, on searches and things like that. I'll get some weird things come up. And I want to say like 6 to 8 months ago, I was going through a phase of feeling stagnant. I felt like I stopped literally watching a lot of my YouTube teachers and things because I felt like the information they were giving was the same stuff. And I felt like there was more to it. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm kind of like I'm a percher. I observe, I'm a people watcher, I observe things. If something doesn't quite seem right to me, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole and I'm going to flesh out whatever I can find. I love different viewpoints. I love how people's perspective gets me thinking and stuff. So I needed some help. I needed to get me out of the stagnation. So what Spirit did was, shortly after I put that out to Spirit, I received on a search a picture of this black and white picture of this gentleman named Rudolf Steiner. And the universe had actually been giving me this photo throughout the past 3 years. And I never pursued it. So finally that day, after I asked Spirit to assist me, I thought, okay, this is, all right, Denise, let's click on it. Let's go down this rabbit hole. Let's do it. Spirit's telling you to do it. So I click on him, and I discovered Rudolf Steiner was way above his past, like way before his time. He was almost like an Edgar Cayce of the day. He was basically what we call the father of anthroposophy, if I'm saying that correctly. And he believed in a different type of human evolution. He was born in the late 1800s, I think 1860s, and passed in 1925. So his viewpoints were clashing with the whole Darwinism scene. So I have to say kudos to this man, because he really put his neck out there, and stood in his truth, which is a lot more than a lot of us are doing. But he stood in his truth and believed what he received so much that he actually started several schools called the Waldorf schools and held several lectures. And these lectures today are now in several different publications. There's a lot of his books. There's so many of his studies. You could spend years studying his stuff. But very interesting man. He channeled what we call today the Akashic Records. He called the Akashic Chronicles. And that is where he obtained a lot of his information. It can be a little bit difficult to read because he's basing his writings on his knowledge of the day. So you have to kind of correlate things. But very interesting gentleman. Definitely, if you want to go down a rabbit hole and get a different perspective, check out Rudolf Steiner and anthroposophy. So at the same time that I ordered this book, I then see this book. And this is Anatomy of the Spirit, The 7 Stages of Power and Healing by Caroline Myss. M-Y-S-S, I know it's backwards, sorry guys.
Now, I bought this book 2 years ago,
And how spirit works for me is I'll be in a bookstore and I'll see a book and I'll get a yes to purchase it, and I'll be like, yes. And I'll come home and I get all cozy with my cup of tea and I'm ready to read this book, and I get a no. And usually it's a capital letter no. And I'm like, what? Really? You told me yes and now it's a no? Well, now I figured out what spirit does with me. Spirit wants me to have the knowledge on hand, so when I'm ready for it, boom, I got it. I can start whenever I'm ready for it. So, along with Rudolf Steiner, all of a sudden I saw this book, which meant that, hey Denise, pull it off the bookshelf. Now you can dive into it. So I was like, oh geez, thanks. Thanks for telling me I can now read this book. But anyway, so Rudolf Steiner believes that there are 7 levels of consciousness, 7 levels of initiation. And when you stop to think about our chakras, why, we have over 100 chakras. Why do we only focus on 7 main chakras? What's the reason for that? Well, if you go by Rudolf Steiner's idea and Caroline Myss and several other people, it's because these 7 are our main initiators. In Steiner's viewpoint, he believes that each of the chakras represents a level of human consciousness. And what Caroline Myss talks about is the same thing. In a different way, but it's the same thing. So, when we go through, our root is not only our grounding chakra, it's also our initiating chakra. And that's its main function, honestly, from what I understand, from what I'm reading, and from spirit, is our root chakra is merely meant to be our initiator. So when you say initiator, what do I mean? It initiates you into starting to elevate the levels of consciousness, passing the lessons, going up grade by grade, if you will. How does one initiate themselves? How does one start? So when I asked Spirit of that, and I said, okay, so you're telling me the root chakra is the initiator. When did I initiate my root chakra? So what Spirit showed me was back in 2020, I was in the medical field, and we all know what was happening in 2020, and I was disagreeing with what I was seeing, what I was hearing from the media and everyone else versus what I was actually seeing. And I'm using the word seeing because it's very important. What I was seeing was not jiving. And I was like, what is going on? Why is what I'm seeing not what everyone else is? When what Spirit showed me was the minute we question this reality with what we see, it triggers the root chakra into the initiation process. So what Spirit showed me was basically the minute I started questioning what I was seeing with what I was being told and questioning it, all of a sudden what Spirit showed me is so funny. It showed me like a gas burner. The gas turned on and the flame, the lighting of the match, and then poof, and basically what that was my seeing was the antagonist, the flame, to poof, exploding my root chakra into initiation. I was like, whoa, that is insane, that's crazy. So I was like, wow, okay. So during that same time, what the other message that Spirit came to me was that the root chakra starts the initiation of the overall knowing of thyself. Rudolf Steiner talks about how in order for us the reason why we have these levels of consciousness is so that we eventually learn our I. And when I say I, it's capital I. It's the knowing of thyself, the I. And that's really what our main purpose is here. That's what humans are here for, is to learn their I. So I went on and I was like, wow, okay. I said, well, what can stop our initiation? So what Spirit showed me then kind of floored me. And, back in 2020, and, we had that 3-letter word going on and a lot of discrimination happening. I can't say the 3-letter word, but you all know it. I have to be careful what I say because I don't want my video banned. But we all know what was going on alongside of, the plague, if you will. And at the time, I was thinking of nefarious being, reasons for all of this. But, I'm going down the rabbit hole of a 3-letter group that shall not be named. The leader starts with a K, but we won't go into that. So I'm like delving into all that stuff. Well, what Spirit showed me, and this is why I didn't want me to put the video out yet, was it wanted me to connect the dots, was that all that happened during 2020 and onward was to start the initiation for many of the humans here on a collective scale. And what happens is, if you go back in history, there's a reason why things repeat themselves. History continues to repeat itself because it gives the human beings the opportunity to do learning on a collective level. That's why you have things like the plague or big mass events, if you will, that affect many all at once. That is the reason why, because it's trying to initiate or graduate or teach people a certain lesson on a huge collective level. So what Spirit showed me was that the disease, the plague, whatever you want to call it, that came out in 2020 was actually for us, for many, to figure out their free will, what really was meant by free will. So that was a huge universal lesson that the collective was given the opportunity of learning to move on, okay, as a larger group, if you will. So when Spirit said that, I was like, whoa, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But then I was like, well, what is that 3-letter word and all that discrimination about? So that's where the anatomy of the Spirit comes in. And what Caroline Myss talks about is that the root chakra is an initiator, but it is known as the all is one. So the big lesson in our root chakra is learning that all is one. So when I heard that, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So all these centuries, so we've had centuries of discrimination. Thousands of years of discrimination of all different kinds of people. So all is one is learning within yourself to love basically each other, regardless of different, color or culture, whatever it is. That's the main lesson for the root chakra. So what was happening with this movement that was happening at the same time as the plague, if you will, was that the universe was giving everyone the opportunity to advance themselves. It was a huge test. It was an initiation test to go to the next level. The universe was actually giving us this test on a collective scale. When I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, that made so much sense. Yes, there are nefarious beings who use that to their advantage, But there were also many of us who passed on a collective level what our free will meant, what free will really meant, and our all is one. So it goes just like you have to have, hot and cold, warm, dark and light. The dark did use it to their advantage. However, it also assisted us in other ways. So when Spirit shared all that and I connected the dots, I was like, whoa, boom, okay. So then I asked Spirit, I said, okay, so what could stop one's initiation process? What could stop it? And why is it so hard for us to start the initiation process? So what Spirit then showed me was victim. Being in a victim archetype, being in a victim state of mind where everything is everyone else's fault. I'm the victim, that happened to me because this happened and this, oh, woe is me, stops us from initiating. Because if you're the victim, if you're always in a state of victimhood, you will never face the challenges and the darker aspects of self in order to know thyself, which is the main initiate. That's what all this initiation is about. Ultimately, at the end, we should know thyself. We should know our I. If we don't, if we continue to stay in a victim state, we can't start our initiation. Now, I would play a little bit of advocate here, not advocate, devil's advocate, I guess. And perhaps that is why darker beings, darker energies wants us to remain in a state of victimhood. I can't believe, like in the past 10 years, I've never seen so many people playing the victim. And our society is allowing this. So what I think is happening is that maybe the dark is possibly using this to stop our initiation. I do believe that, again, just like the 3-letter word and the disease, this also can be good. It can be a catalyst for us to go down that rabbit hole and start the initiation. So as I'm putting this all together, I'm like, whoa. So what, then I asked Spirit about it. I was like, well, am I on the right track? And I received yes. So then I said, wow, okay, so once you start the initiation, can it be stopped? And I said, yes, it can be stopped at any point, at your solar plexus, your heart, whatever, by the victim. I was like, whoa, very interesting. So I'm going to read to you what I channeled from Spirit, and hopefully this resonates with you and makes this a little clearer. But basically it says, victim can stop the initiation process, but is also a catalyst for the levels of initiation. Humanity's existence on a spiritual level of initiation is to individuate from the collective, from the herd. So, to form your own opinion, to become your own person, to be driven by your own feelings in your heart and soul, this creates the I. This creates our individuality. Becoming an individual is knowledge of self. So, being the victim, again, you have the shadow side and you have the positive side of it. So just like the disease and all, who knows, guys? I'm throwing it out there. This is what I'm learning about. So all of a sudden I have a clearer picture. I'm starting to see a different way of how our universe gives us lessons, and why some things are always repeating themselves. We will never get rid of, discrimination that's happened for centuries. It's going to continue to happen for more centuries until the universal collective learns the lesson. It's going to repeat itself. It's like going on a date and you date the same guy over and over again. You're like, God, why do I keep getting the same guy? It's because you're not learning the lesson. The minute you learn the lesson, all of a sudden this new guy shows up and you're like, he's totally different from anyone I dated before. Wow, where'd he come from? Because you learned the lesson of those other partners. The way that we can do this on our own, you could sit there and say, well, how do I do this, Denise? How can I assist others in this, 3-letter word and discrimination and all? What can I do? You can graduate from your all is one by you understanding and passing all is one. That subconscious thought, that vibration goes out to the subconscious highway. That thought alone, that vibration of all is one, will attach itself to anyone else who's of the same vibration. And that's how you can change this. That is how we can stop this from all happening, is for ourselves to start learning what these lessons are. I realized that, why is the root color red? Why is it red? Love is represented by red. Love is the greatest power of all. What is all is one? It's loving each other. So, this is my journey. This is my understanding. If any of this resonated with you, I hope it did. If not, it's okay. You're allowed your thoughts. We are all in a different reality. But if it hit home, let me know. Let me know if you understood where I was coming from. You're picking up what I'm putting down. Hit the like button. Help me push this out to others. Maybe start that seed of thinking. They want us to keep us in a state of victim. They want us to keep us in certain states because it does help them. But we can also help ourselves. Once we have a better understanding why things are occurring on a collective level. So, it also takes the fear out of it. Once you see it, you can't undo it. So now there's nothing to be fearful. Now that I have this different perspective, now I'm starting to see, oh, this is why. I'm not going down that conspiracy theory way of thinking that's creating the fear, if you will, stuff like that. But just throwing it out there, different way of thinking. Hit the like, subscribe button, help me push this out. Comment down below if you want to see my sacral video and what I come up with my own understanding of the sacral. Feel free to hit subscribe. And I always put my email in there. Always, you can leave me comments. You can send me an email. Edit your thoughts, whatever you want. You're not alone in all of this. And yeah, have a great day, guys. Bye.